Hi folks, the Filipino P here. And I get a lot of questions from you folks about how much it costs to live like a Filipino. Why? Well, some of you might be considering trying it yourselves, but most of the people who ask are thinking about helping a Filipino with her living expenses. Unfortunately, many of you guys have no clue what the true figure is, and you end up relying on what you're told by your Filipino girlfriend. So for those of you that either want to live like us or help someone already in the Philippines, I'm going to tell you what things really cost the Filipina, right down to the peso. I'm also going to cover those pesky little fees you often get asked to help with, like IDs, passports, birth certificates, and those never-ending medical emergencies. Knowledge is power, so prepare to get a lot more powerful. Now, first, let me start out with a disclaimer. I've never advocated supporting a woman you've never met, or even most of the ones you have. Not only is it not your responsibility, but your support can end up being abused, and the very person you're trying to help ends up taking advantage of your generosity. Sometimes that's her intention from the start, but it usually starts out innocently. And then once the money starts flowing, the temptation to get a little more becomes too hard to resist. But the thing a lot of guys don't understand is that when a woman sees you can easily be manipulated, you lose her respect, no matter what your intentions are. So your efforts to help her out by coming to the rescue can actually backfire. Even if you've got plenty of extra cash to throw around, and you're genuinely trying to make her life easier instead of just impressing her with your ability to provide, you can end up sabotaging yourself. As long as you keep giving, she'll keep taking. And after a while, she might feel entitled to your help and even start coming up with new expenses. Now, a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about, but I also know a lot of you guys are gonna do it anyway. So if you're determined to send her assistance, at least I can help you understand how to calculate a reasonable figure. Most of you are just guessing at it, and all too often, you end up sending way too much because you're basing things on some of the expenses where you live. You know it's cheaper to live in the Philippines, but you might not realize exactly what the average Filipino spends to maintain their lifestyle. And that's where I come in. Now, let me also say that the majority of Filipinas will be overwhelmed with gratitude by your efforts to help. And most of us won't intentionally take advantage of it. A lot of us will never even mention money or ask for support in any way. But at least it'll be good to know that things are on the up and up. So you might be wondering how I can talk about average living expenses. Doesn't the cost of living depend heavily on where you live? Well, in Western countries, it sure does. There's a big difference in prices from region to region. But things are much more homogeneous in the Philippines, especially in provincial areas. And 90% of Filipinos live in the provinces. So unless you're Filipinos in a big city, everything I'm about to mention will cover the vast majority of cases. And I'm very familiar with all these prices because not only am I a Filipina, but I lived on my own for many years. So you can trust that my figures are accurate. So let's start with the biggest expense, rent. Unlike in the West, where many single people have their own place and have to pay a high monthly rental fee, most Filipinos live with family members in a place owned by the family, which often means it's not costing the Filipina anything at all to live there. They might contribute a little bit to household expenses when they can, but it's nothing like the high prices where you are. Even if you want to go all out and get her own space, a decent provincial home like the one she's probably living in now will only cost around $100 to $150 a month. Now, it doesn't have walk-in closets or an ensuite jacuzzi, but it'll be what she's used to. The next biggest expenditure is food, and our eating habits are definitely a lot cheaper than yours. As far as eating out, that's not really something most Filipinos get to experience very often. And when we do, it's usually a $2 meal from Jollibee's that includes a burger, fries, and drink, tax included. Even a medium-priced place like Shakey's Pizza would be a big deal for us, which is why you see so many Filipinos taking pictures of themselves with our food when we're lucky enough to go, which is almost never. But 99% of the time, we cook our own food. And in the province, it's pretty cheap. The staple food in the Philippines is obviously rice. We all eat it and we all know what it costs. A 10-kilo sack of rice is about $7 and it'll last one person an entire month. The total grocery bill, including everything needed for a typical Filipino diet, will run about $100 a month and around $175 if they have a child. Although I know a lot of people that get by on much less. As for personal care items, we only spend a fraction of what a Western woman does. We don't typically wear a lot of makeup. We don't spend $200 at a hair salon. And other than your standard stuff like deodorant and toothpaste and feminine products you don't want to hear about, we're really low maintenance. $20 a month will easily cover everything we need. But the frugal nature of a Filipina really shines when it comes to the budget for clothing and accessories. Most Western guys are amazed by how well Filipinas dress. But they're even more blown away when they find out it barely costs us anything. Almost everyone I know, including me, buys their clothing secondhand. We love to go to the mall, but we almost never buy our clothes there. Instead, we go to the little ukay-ukay stores where surplus and used clothing gets shipped to the Philippines from around the world. We get name brand stuff for only a few bucks. And even when you include things like shoes and bags, the average Filipino only needs about $10 to $15 a month to stay looking good. Sounds impossible, right? But it's true. And there's one thing every Filipino does need to spend money on. But again, it ain't much. The average woman has a phone, and in order to talk to you, she's gotta have service. But instead of having an expensive phone plan, we just buy load, which is a certain amount of data that we use up and then buy some more. That might sound kind of primitive and a big hassle to keep buying load, but the average Filipino only ends up spending about $10 a month for phone service. And finally, we get to something that's really hard to put a number on because it's either zero or it's huge. For us anyway. I'm talking about medical care, including visits to the dentist. Most Filipinos have something called PhilHealth, but it only provides minimal coverage. If we need expensive medication or life-saving surgery, we can end up in serious financial trouble. But other than that, Filipinos really don't think much about doctors or dentists, and we only see them after there's something wrong, which explains all the rotten teeth and undiagnosed conditions around here. But to put a number on it, well, most years it's zero. It only becomes an expense when the alternative is death. So now that we have our average Filipina dressed and fed with a roof over her head and a phone in her hand, there really aren't any other major expenses. That's about it. Why does it cost you folks so much more to live? Well, I think I figured it out. The biggest difference in a Filipino budget compared to a Western budget isn't in the things we buy. It's in the things we don't buy. When I was in the US, I was amazed by the level of consumerism. People were buying all kinds of things I didn't even know existed, and definitely not stuff I needed. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's what drives your huge economy. But it's just not something Filipinos can afford to do and never have been able to do, so we don't miss it. But what it means is that when you trim all the fat off the budget, it just doesn't cost us that much to live. Most of us don't get $6 lattes from Starbucks or expensive workout equipment we never use. We don't buy vacuum cleaners and sprinkler systems and $20 knickknacks for the living room shelf. We don't have to pay car insurance because we don't own cars, which means we don't have to buy tires either. We don't pay homeowners insurance or HOA fees, and we don't pay anyone to mow our lawns because we don't have lawns. I'm sure when you add all that stuff up, it constitutes a pretty large chunk of cash that we just don't have to spend. But what do we have to spend? What was the total monthly budget for an average provincial Filipina? Well, even if we include the optional rent, it comes to $290 US, tax, tag, and title. So for those of you that want to have some idea what it costs your Filipina to live, now you know. What you do with that information is up to you. Maybe she's got a job, so she doesn't even need your help. Or maybe she's supporting her family, in which case she might be beyond help. But to those of you that have somehow been convinced that it takes $500 a month just to survive, you might want to adjust your figures. So what about those little extras that some of you get asked for help with? The paperwork stuff, like IDs and passports. Well, these are a good way to tell if your Filipina is trying to milk you, because the prices are all standardized. So it's easy to see if someone might be adding a little to see what they can get away with. I got an email from a guy that was asked for $100 to pay for his girlfriend's passport. It wasn't a huge amount of money. He was just making sure it was legit. When I informed him that the passport only cost 950 pesos, or about $17, he ended the relationship. And I don't blame him. A lie is a lie. Another one is the government ID issued by the BIR. If you get asked to pay for one, then Houston, you have a problem, because those IDs are free. Next, we have the police and NBI clearance. We're required to get those when we apply for a job or travel outside the country. And if you're quoted some crazy amount, please know that the actual price for both is less than $6. And finally, we have the birth certificate. Now, it might seem strange to you that so many of us don't have one, but that's a long story for another day. Just remember that we're talking about the Philippines here, and leave it at that. Anyway, a birth certificate is only 330 pesos, or just $5.90. So the next time you get asked to pay for one of these forms, now you have a handy-dandy price sheet to spot the fakers. Because you're probably dating an honest woman, you might never need any of this information. But even if you don't, it gives you another window into the real life of a Filipina. Now, some of you are bound to ask me, if a Filipino can live on $290 a month, does that apply to foreigners as well? Well, you have a few extra fees to pay with visa extensions and ACR cards and stuff like that. But sure, you can survive here. If you want to be that guy that doesn't have any transportation to go pick up the Shakey's pizza he can't afford, that he can't eat anyway because his teeth are rotten, then go for it. But if you're one of the 99.9% of all the foreigners I've ever met, you won't be happy with less than $1,000 a month, and I have several videos explaining exactly why. Well, that's it for this episode. And please join me again in just 3 more days as I bring you something interesting to consider. Till then, folks. If you think about it, I'm kind of like a Vulcan, using calm, cool logic to address your concerns about life in the Philippines. Like Mr. Spock, I'm a half-blood as well, with 1 foot in the east and 1 in the west, giving me the ability to meld with your mind on topics concerning the culture here. All that I ask in return is a thumbs up on this video, subscribing to my channel, and hitting the notification bell so you know when the next data has been presented for your analysis. And if you really want to become part of the crew, feel free to check out my Patreon page for bonus content and exclusive features. Oh, Jim, you look good today. Have you been working out? Oops, bonfire. Well, since it looks like I'll be busy for the next few hours, I suggest you view my other videos during my absence. Oh, Captain, you really are going where no man's gone before.